This is the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite.
Good evening. The 100th day of captivity for 50 Americans in Tehran went almost unnoticed in Iran today as that country celebrated the first anniversary of its revolution. Outside the U.S. Embassy where the Americans are held, the demonstrators shouting anti-American slogans, the politicians, the street vendors, the foreign reporters, all were gone today. Those few persons who did show up mostly were the curious. 5 miles from the embassy, Iran celebrated its revolution. A speech by Ayatollah Khomeini was read to the throngs. In it, he called for the world to unite and cut off the hand of the criminal America. But Iranian President Bani Sadr, in a Paris newspaper interview, struck a more conciliatory tone, as Arden Ostrander reports from London.
Iranians turned out today in the hundreds of thousands to mark the first anniversary of their revolution. Featured guests were President Abul Hassan Bani Sadr, Ahmed Khomeini, who filled in for his father Ayatollah Khomeini, still under doctor's care at a nearby hospital, and Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. Diplomatic sources in Tehran said today that Arafat could emerge as an important intermediary in the negotiations to free the hostages. The Iranian military ended a year of disgrace by taking part in today's observances. And Bani Sadr was quoted by a Paris newspaper as saying the American hostages could be released within a few days if the United States acknowledges what he terms its past crimes and recognizes Iran's right to pursue the Shah and his wealth. Bani Sadr says after President Carter meets Iran's conditions and Ayatollah Khomeini ratifies the agreement, the hostages could be released even while an international tribunal investigates the Shah. Arden Ostrander, CBS News, London.
Bani Sadr also told the newspaper Le Monde that he has proposed the American hostages be removed from the embassy in the next few days and be turned over to a third party. But he ruled out any use of force against the militants occupying the embassy. Iran's official news agency Pars claimed that Bani Sadr was misquoted in that Paris newspaper interview, but the news agency did not say in what way. In Washington, the State Department was quick to react to the Bani Sadr statements, saying they would be closely examined, but ruling out any American admission of guilt. That Tehran celebration of the Iranian Revolution turned tragic when a tank in an army parade hit a crowd of onlookers, killing 3 of them. A 4th person was killed when a grandstand collapsed.
I never thought I'd get into these jeans again, but now I can. Thanks to PVM.
New PVM appetite suppressant. You lose weight because you stick to a low-calorie diet.
Evelyn, you look great.
Well, I lost some weight. Thanks to PVM.
New PVM appetite suppressant. It curbs your appetite all day long, so you stick to your diet.
If I lost weight, you could too. Thanks to PVM.
PVM, a clinically tested and proven way to lose weight. Try it.
General Motors' $500 treasure hunt is going strong. Just find, buy, and take delivery of any new 79 model Chevrolet Impala or Caprice, Pontiac Catalina or Bonneville, Oldsmobile Delta 88, Buick LeSabre, GMC or Chevy van, and GM will give you $500. But supplies are short. You may have to shop to find one that suits you. Get a great 79 GM car, wagon, or van. A great deal and $500.
At the United Nations today, a spokesman, without any elaboration, said negotiations to end the Iran crisis are at a very sensitive stage. He said that UN Secretary General Waldheim is a central figure in this latest effort. But in these past 100 days, there have been many efforts to end the crisis, none of them successful. Marvin Kalb reports.
For a fleeting moment after the embassy was seized, the administration considered military action, an Entebbe-type strike. But distance, capability, concern for the hostages' lives militated against this option. So the administration fell back upon a frenzy of diplomacy, economic pressures, and military buildups as its response to this massive humiliation. The administration sent former Attorney General Ramsey Clark, considered sympathetic to the Iranian Revolution, to Tehran. But Khomeini did not even allow him to enter the country. The U.S. then tried every available intermediary, leaning on Islamic states, Pakistan, Algeria, Syria, even the Palestine Liberation Organization. Nothing worked. The U.S. took unilateral action. Deportation checks were ordered against 200,000 Iranians, mostly students. The president announced a ban on Iranian oil imports. In a preemptive move, he froze $8 billion worth of Iranian assets in American banks. The aircraft carrier Midway led a flotilla of American naval power into the Indian Ocean near Iran.
They and all others must know that the United States of America will not yield to international terrorism or to blackmail.
In late November, the U.S., using the United Nations, came close to a deal with the man who was then Iran's foreign minister, Abul Hassan Bani Sadr, an international investigation of the Shah's alleged crimes in exchange for the hostages' safe release. But the militants backed by Khomeini blocked the deal and Bani Sadr was fired. It was then that the president indirectly warned about the possibility of military action.
It would not be possible or even advisable for me to set a deadline about when or if I would take certain action in the future. This is an ever-present consideration on my mind.
Khomeini released 13 of the hostages, women and blacks, a calculated pitch for American public opinion, not a response to American pressure. In December, the U.S. pressed the UN Security Council for a resolution demanding the hostages' release and got it, the first of a number of such resolutions. Then, to buy time and convey an impression of continuing activity, the U.S. increased the pressure. Attorney General Civiletti argued America's case before the World Court successfully. Iran ignored the court's ruling. Secretary of State Vance flew to Western Europe to rally support for economic sanctions against Iran, unsuccessfully. Critics said it was a policy of shadow over substance. At Christmas time, the Russians shocked the president by invading Afghanistan and fundamentally changed the administration's view of the Iranian crisis. From sharp hostility to an urgent plea that Iran see the danger posed by Russia, release the hostages, and strike a new relationship with the U.S.
To persuade the Iranian leaders that the real danger to their nation lies in the north, in the Soviet Union, and from the Soviet troops now in Afghanistan.
Formally, the administration continued to push for economic sanctions, but after Bani Sadr's election, decided to drop them. If the success of administration policy is to be measured by the hostages' safe release or by America's overall standing in the world, then everything so far has fallen short of the mark. But for the first time in this long national nightmare, officials here are fairly well persuaded that the hostages will soon be freed, principally because the new government in Iran wants to end the crisis. But even then, only the personal side of it will have been resolved because the underlying challenges, Russia and oil, still remain. Marvin Kalb, CBS News, the State Department.
CBS News will present a special report on the hostages' 100 days tonight at 11:30, 10:30 Central Time. A weakening heart and kidney trouble have complicated the recovery of Marshal Tito, whose left leg was amputated 3 weeks ago. A bulletin from his doctors today for the first time mentioned certain signs of heart weakness in the 87-year-old Yugoslav president. Tito's leg was removed to block gangrene resulting from a circulatory ailment. The sound of artillery fire roared through southern Lebanon again today as right-wing militia and Palestinian guerrillas bombarded each other's positions. 4 persons were reported killed and several others wounded. In Israel, a bomb which Palestinians said they set exploded near Tel Aviv, and 15 persons were injured. Rhodesian guerrilla leader Robert Mugabe threatened today to pull his forces out of the fragile 6-week-old ceasefire. Mugabe yesterday narrowly escaped the second attempt on his life in 5 days. Today, he accused Rhodesia's security forces of trying to kill him. And he said the British governor of Rhodesia, Lord Solms, is acquiescing in these attacks. Mugabe, a Marxist, appears to be the leading candidate in parliamentary elections later this month.
Hey, Vic Sinex long acting's amazing.
Lasted you through the day's plowing.
More than that. Got me breathing more like my old self again.
Vic Sinex long-acting nasal spray not only lasts up to 10 hours, but clinical tests show it's so effective it can have you breathing like your old self again.
Amazing.
Sinex lasted you through the long haul.
Oh, more than that. Got me breathing more like my old self again.
Vic Sinex is long-acting. More than that, it can have you breathing like your old self again.
The secret of this mysterious drop of oil of Olay is that it's similar to the natural fluids your skin had so much of when it was younger. As your skin ages, it loses those vital fluids, disturbing nature's delicate balance. Oil of Olay penetrates quickly to revive the radiant look your skin had when it was younger. Discover the secret of Oil of Olay. It can help you look younger too.
President Carter has again defeated Senator Kennedy in the second round of Campaign 80, the caucus in Kennedy's neighboring state of Maine. The CBS News tally of delegates to the state Democratic Convention in May, 97% complete, shows Mr. Carter with 47% to 39% for Kennedy. Governor Brown got 12% with 2% uncommitted. On the basis of those returns, the president could expect 11 of Maine's 22 National Convention delegates, Kennedy 9. Brown, by failing to get the required minimum of 15%, would get no delegates. The remaining two we list as uncommitted, although one is expected to be Governor Joseph Brennan, who supports Kennedy, and one Senator Edmund Muskie, who leans to Carter. Each of the candidates sought to read those Maine results today in the best possible light for his campaign, as Leslie Stahl reports.
As the president was returning from Camp David, his aides were complaining bitterly about news reports calling the president's win a narrow one. The aides say it's unfair to measure Mr. Carter's showing against the expectations built up in Iowa. They say he beat Kennedy and beat him in his own neck of the woods.
Yesterday we won as many delegates as the other candidates combined, at least that many, and both campaigns have been conducted under difficult circumstances. We've had to make some sensitive decisions for our nation's security that were highly difficult politically.
Are you going to continue to not campaign, Mr. President?
Are you any more inclined to go out?
The president never answered the questions, but his aides reiterated that he will not debate or campaign until the hostage issue is resolved. Last night, despite the 6-point spread, Kennedy called the Maine vote a dead heat, while his supporters declared an outright victory. The results are expected to breathe new life into the Kennedy campaign, to bring in more money and organizational support.
People calling into the headquarters in Manchester and Nashua and other places. There's a good spirit. People are excited. They want to work. They are working. And I'm very hopeful.
Governor Brown, who didn't start campaigning till 10 days ago, produced the biggest surprise. And so he declared victory, too.
No, Carter lost because he didn't get a majority. Kennedy lost because of his own backyard and didn't win. I won because they rated me as getting nothing, and I increased it by a substantial amount.
So if you listen to the candidates, there was no agony of defeat in Maine, only victories. Here at the White House, there was some disappointment at the president's showing. But officials say it may all help Mr. Carter in the next contest. They say that at least now he won't be expected to win the New Hampshire primary by 2-1. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
Maine's Republicans hold their town caucuses over a period of several weeks until April 1st. From Maine, it's on to New Hampshire later this month, and the primary that used to be the starting place of presidential campaigns. Bruce Morton reports.
We're going to do one ward in Keene, Ward 4, the biggest ward.
The campaign hasn't stopped, of course. It has simply moved over one state.
Hi. Hello, Miss Talmadge. My name's Timothy Flynn, and I'm working for the president. Yeah, I was just wondering if you could tell me how you intend on voting in the primary.
Carter canvassers in Keene, a city where the flags fly at half-mast because of the hostages in Tehran. Politicians differ over just what Maine means here. A father's view.
But the man of the 80s, this young governor, who did far better in Maine today than his mother or I expected. Thank you very much.
But the Brown campaign is hardly visible here yet. Kennedy and Carter have the big battalions, and the men in charge think Kennedy gained ground.
It was really a defeat for the president. He received less than a majority of the vote. Senator Kennedy came very close to him in Maine.
We're going to work even harder than we've been working because we do feel that he has some momentum from this.
Kennedy will need it. New Hampshire's 146,000 registered Democrats, fewer than Maine, favored Carter 54-36 in a Boston Globe poll taken after Iowa, but before Maine.
Carter won the New Hampshire primary 4 years ago, though with only 28% of the vote, and most of this state's political establishment, including the governor, backs him this time.
Again, I find myself in a position of supporting the President of the United States.
But I'm also very proud to be standing here supporting that gentleman.
Still, both sides agree Kennedy does have momentum coming out of Maine. And they agree on one other thing. Their canvasses show a lot of voters still undecided or gone fishing. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Manchester, New Hampshire.
The Howard Baker campaign has stopped using what had been widely regarded as a highly effective political advertisement, the one showing Baker confronting an Iranian student in an audience. The spokesman said the decision was made not because of any controversy the ad created, but because the message had run its course. The spokesman added it's time to go on to other matters.
What do winners do when they rent a car? They save.
Everybody loves the winner. Only the winner can really make things happen.
Hertz Economy fares make #1 a bargain. Subcompacts are as low as $14.95 a day weekends and $98 a week. Free mileage, too.
Everybody loves the winner. Everybody.
If you think this can only happen to someone else, don't kid yourself. It can happen to you. Now, help protect your family with the new First Alert Family Protection System, a home burglar alarm that's easy to afford and easy to install because of its advanced wireless technology. Get the new First Alert Family Protection System. You can't say you haven't been warned. First Alert from the professionals at Pitway.
Attorney General Civiletti vowed publicly today to find and punish whoever in government was responsible for leaking information about the FBI's abscam bribery investigation. Fred Graham reports.
In the past, the Justice Department's investigations of its own leaks have tended to be low-key and rarely successful. But Civiletti made it clear that this investigation will try harder. At the National Press Club, he introduced Richard Blumenthal, United States Attorney for Connecticut, who will ramrod an investigation designed to find and punish the leakers.
Nothing since I have been in the Department of Justice has angered and frustrated me more than the revelations over the last 2 weeks. There is no excuse for violating the rights of innocent persons who are entitled to due process, who are entitled to their day in court, and who are entitled to be presumed innocent, and particularly when it involves public officials whose reputations are their life's blood.
Sources say that about 200 Justice Department and FBI personnel will be questioned, and that about a dozen may be asked to take lie detector tests. If any leaker is caught, the most likely punishment would be dismissal. But if it appears that any government personnel have violated the Privacy Act by deliberately releasing the names of persons under investigation, the Justice Department is holding open the possibility of taking the case before the grand jury and indicting one of its own people. Fred Graham, CBS News at the Justice Department.
Civiletti also has another controversy on his hands involving Treasury Secretary G. William Miller. This concerns payoffs overseas by Textron when Miller headed that corporation, and which Miller says he didn't know anything about. Today, 4 Republican members of the Senate Judicial Committee formally asked Civiletti to name a special prosecutor to investigate. The Attorney General has 30 days in which to reply. A New York State court today overturned a lower court decision that would have allowed Taiwan to compete in the Winter Olympics under the Republic of China flag. The People's Republic of China had said it would pull out of the Lake Placid Games if the Taiwanese participated under that flag. A House Armed Services Subcommittee today heard testimony from women in the armed services who aren't happy about what they consider sexual harassment on their jobs. The committee heard from high-ranking women and from one private who had a unique perspective. Jim McManus reports.
5 Army women, 2 still on active duty, said sexual harassment is widespread in military life, but the worst they encountered was in the military police battalion at Fort Meade in Maryland. PFC Sarah Tolero said she used to earn extra money as a nude go-go dancer in Baltimore and suffered less abuse in nightclubs than she got from male soldiers at Fort Meade.
I've had several very bad experiences. One, among others, is getting pushed into a corner by 2 NCOs and having them exposing themselves to me and then laughing And I've never had that happen to me before, anywhere.
Fort Meade's commander, Colonel Thomas Fitzpatrick, said the Army is investigating similar charges at his post, but he does not believe the problem there is severe. The military's top-ranking female officers said there are very few sexual harassment cases officially filed by servicewomen, and no one knows if their problems are worse than women encounter in civilian life.
When we do have it, I think the important thing is that now we recognize it more than we've ever recognized it before, and we're all taking steps to see if we can lessen it, erase it. But I consider it a serious problem, sir.
Committee members said they're worried that reports of sexual harassment in the military could cut female enlistments, just when the services need more skilled personnel, both men and women. Jim McManus, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
On the 9 campuses of the University of California today, there were demonstrations against the drafting of either men or women. Some 2,000 persons turned out at Berkeley, student population there 30,000, to hear Daniel Ellsberg, a voice from the anti-Vietnam War movement of 10 years ago. At UCLA, there were several hundred students at its 30,000 at what was billed as the first teach-in a decade. Student body presidents at all the colleges in the huge California system have come out against President Carter's plan for mandatory draft registration. A pump inside Pennsylvania's 3 Mile Island nuclear plant leaked radioactive water for almost 2 hours today. Officials say the leak is now stopped, and they say there is no threat to the public because the water is contained within an auxiliary building. The pump's part of a backup system to cool the damaged nuclear reactor that almost melted down in that accident last March. Chicago public school officials went to class today for the first time in 2 weeks. A teacher strike ended with a compromise, restoring 500 jobs the Board of Education had wanted to eliminate. The stock market today was down in heavy trading.
See that house? It was almost ours.
We really had plans for that place.
And we were saving up for the down payment. And then we heard of a way to get a little more interest on our savings.
And we took the risk.
We should have been more careful.
Don't take the risk. Save at a savings and loan where you see this emblem. No one's ever lost a penny where it's displayed. Look for it where you save. You'll earn high interest with no risk.
Harold, time for your bran.
Bran, Harold just left. He doesn't like bran cereals.
Dad doesn't know what he's missing with crackling bran. Oats, brown sugar, coconut.
Not just bran.
Try it.
Harold's home. Get the milk.
Kellogg's Cracklin' Bran, high fiber, great nut-like taste.
If you like bran, you'll like it.
I like it.
If you like bran, you'll love it.
We love it.
Kellogg's Cracklin' Bran.
4 months after it came to power, El Salvador's ruling junta today announced a series of moves that appear designed to appease leftists. It nationalized private banking, including foreign banks, imposed government controls on exports, and announced a land reform program. Both leftists and business leaders previously had rejected those proposals. The Northern Ireland peace movement, whose founders won the Nobel Peace Prize, appears to be falling apart. Betty Williams, one co-founder, has resigned, apparently after a split with her colleague, Narad Corrigan. Their dispute is said to center on the issue of support for Irish Republican Army members in prison. French Jews massed outside a Cologne courthouse today for the climax of one of the last of the major Nazi war crimes trials. Inside, a judge sentenced 3 former Gestapo officers found guilty of complicity in the murder of 35,000 French Jews deported to Poland. Colonel Kurt Lischkitz hit his head as he was given 10 years imprisonment. Major Herbert Hagen was sentenced to 12 years. The former corporal received a 6-year sentence. The time that has passed since the U.S. Embassy in Tehran was seized and is being measured in days or weeks or months. But for the families of those 50 Americans still being held captive, none of these measurements apply. Charles Osgood reports.
In Iran, the 50 American hostages have begun their 100th day of captivity as differences grow wider between the militants holding the hostages.
How long is 100 days? It depends. Life itself is short, yet a given piece of our lives can seem either interminable or the blink of an eye, depending on who we are and where we are.
It's a milestone in a way. At the same time, I'm sure for them it's just one more day. I'm sure they don't, possibly they realize it's a 100 day, but if they do, I don't think it means anything to them.
I suppose when you start talking about 100 days, you are beginning to think in cycles, and it becomes a cornerstone or a marker of some kind, and I guess it's at that time you sit back and try to reappraise the situation. And in this case, this is such a disgusting situation that the idea that it's carried on for 2 days, much less 100, is so unspeakable that I guess the mind boggles.
We Americans tend to be impatient about things. We think and talk and move faster than people in many other lands.
I feel very bitter, and I'll be honest, I feel very bitter toward the militants that are holding our Americans, but toward the Iranian people as a whole. No, I really don't. They are all human beings. They all have hearts and souls.
They look at us sometimes and wonder about the pace of our existence, why we always seem to be in such a hurry.
I'm doing a couple of things. I fly the flag every day. It's been out every day since she's been taken. And when they started with the yellow ribbon, I didn't have a tree big enough, so I've got it on my porch. And then I decided maybe people don't realize just how long it's really been. So in both cars, I have a simple sign saying day and whatever day it is. So
in subtle but perhaps important ways, these last 100 days have changed us all in the perceptions we have of ourselves and of the world and of time.
I was having a very bad day one day, and I was crying. And the oldest came over to me and put her arms around me, and she says, "Don't cry, Mommy. It'll be all right." She says, "Daddy will come home." And when a child that small has that much sensitivity, it just tears you up.
Now today, what I'm hopeful about is that this is a beginning for them to let our people go and start fresh with their revolution in a more joyful manner, rather than with letting children take over in acts of terrorism and that sort of thing. That's what I'm hoping today means, is a new beginning for the Iranians, too.
Charles Osgood, CBS News, New York.
And that's the way it is. Monday, February 11th, 1980. This is Voter Crime Guide, CBS News. Good night.
Lincoln Mercury announces cash back from the cap. The kind of savings you want on the kind of cars you need. Buy one of our high-mileage Zephyrs, Z7s, or Zephyr wagons, and you get $300 direct to you. Buy the exciting new Cougar XR7, and you get $500. But act now. It's a limited time offer. Come, share our pride in these high-mileage Mercuries and get cash back from the cat.
I'm chewing gum again. It's wonderful. For years I couldn't because gum stuck to my dental work, but now there's Freedent gum. It doesn't stick, so I can enjoy all the pleasures of chewing gum again. The delicious flavor, fresh, clean breath, and refreshing taste, all that's possible again with Freedent gum from Wrigley's. It comes in peppermint and spearmint. You'll love it.
Feel free to chew Freedent.
It won't stick to most dental work.
Freedent gum.
This has been the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. A CBS News special report. Join Dan Rather for The Hostages, 100 Days, tonight at 11:30 Eastern Time. This is CBS.
Metro Police say they're still investigating the weekend incident where a handcuffed suspect was shot in the back while running away from police officers. We'll have a full report on that story plus more coming up next on Eyewitness News.
When's the last time you had your eyes examined? If it's more than a year ago, don't put it off much longer. Because an eye exam not only shows if your prescription has changed, it also helps screen for glaucoma, a leading cause of blindness. So see your eye care specialist regularly. Pearl Vision Center brings you this message because